Hello, everyone. Welcome to our edition of the Ohio Guys here. My name is Christian Ocampo, and today I'm joined by another wonderful guest here today. We have Kalin Coates here today. Hello, Kalin.
Hi.
Hello there. Thank you for taking the time for this interview. Been waiting for a long time to make this happen, and I'm very pleased that we finally got the workings on it now. So happy to have you here on the interwebs.
Yeah, thanks. I'm happy too.
And I'm sure this is kind of new to you with the interviews and talking about your career. And I'm
Mhm.
very excited to kind of dive deep into the work you've done in almost 2 decades, in the industry. So we hope to kind of like learn more about you here in this interview.
Okay.
So to kind of get us started, tell us what is it like working in the industry today?
Um, well, it's not until recently that I've really like made it a bigger part of my life just because when I started, I had just moved to Houston. So it was really exciting, but I was still kind of trying to get a handle on it. And then I started having children. So my life got really crazy, and it was always something that I had that was a place that I could go, but I really didn't have the time or to put in the effort until just recently. So my real experience is really just in the studio with the directors. Not I don't have a lot of fans that I'm aware of, but I just recently started going to like anime cons, and I love the fans so much. They are so into it. They know more than I do for sure, um, about anime, and a lot of them know more about what I've done than I do, which is really exciting. And I, for me, I don't know that as I'm trying to think like the industry today. I don't know. It feels light and fun and easy, and even when you're playing like a really dark character, you're able to laugh about it. um yeah, I don't know. I've it's always been like um a joyful part of my life. It's never caused me any kind of stress. So yeah, I guess that's the industry today for me. Is just it's a joyful part of my life.
Yeah, it's an ever-changing industry. It has been very different since the 90s, the
Hmm.
2000s, the teens. Even now, as industry has kind of gone away from COVID, the pandemic, remote recording, now everything is kind of back on track, to say the least, especially with new shows that keep coming out every season. Every cast list gets reshuffled just to keep things more interesting and kind of keep the fans on their toes on what new show is going to have a new cast list. And maybe for yourself and your fellow colleagues, you might be in those shows, but we don't know because it's a guessing game for us, the fans. As you said before, you may not have as much fans, but I'm a fan of yours, so I'm happy to say that. And just getting to hear your voice and like different characters and different genres, it's amazing just seeing how much anime is still being continued to get pumped out in the working machines in Japan and here in the recording studios. So always something to always look forward to in this rapid, fast growing industry.
And it goes so fast, but they come out with like new exciting characters and new exciting plots like all the time. And that's amazing to me that they can keep pumping out like new ideas and interesting characters, even though it's been going on for so long.
Indeed. And again, with so many new shows coming out, and always like when it comes to Sentai or High Dive, always they're going to be dropping something soon, and announcements going to be coming out around the corner. So again, more amazing stuff that we hope to see in the coming months and the coming years.
Mhm.
So to kind of go back to you when it comes to in the industry, is there a favorite show that you have worked on that you'd like to talk about?
Um, I did I was in a video game. That was really exciting because it was very different. It was on the Nintendo Switch just a couple years ago.
Okay.
Um, I played a character named Pochi. Um, the World's End Club. Yeah, yeah, World's End Club. Um, so my favorite role that I've gotten to play recently was World's End Club, because it was a video game, so it was really different than anything I'd ever done before. And I got to play kind of a two-sided character. He was a good guy, but he was actually working for the dark side. So that was exciting. And I always like playing teenage boys because I feel like that's more of a challenge for me. I've never been a teenage boy, of course. So um, I like that. And I get to use the lower register of my voice, which is always, it's more comfortable for me. And so I really enjoyed doing that one because that was really very different. The way we recorded it was very different. And then I really enjoyed doing UQ Holder. Um, I worked with Shannon Reed on that one, and it was just like playing in the studio the whole time. And the character was so interesting. The character has no gender because they come from a society where they get to choose their gender when they turn 16 years old. And my character was 15. So they were trying to figure out what is it that they were going to choose, and they were starting to crush on a boy. So at one point in one of the episodes, I got to switch and like be a girl for an episode. So I got to change my voice for that episode, and I just got to play a completely different person to sort of my character was trying to figure out if I was going to choose to be a boy or a girl. And a lot of times when I play these characters that the gender is muddled, like I've been in a couple shows where they don't they wonder about the gender of my character, but it never comes out. And I just choose to not make a choice. Like I'm just gonna be me because you can be yourself without thinking constantly about what gender you are. So I thought that was really fun to sort of play around with that on that show.
Two big highlights you just mentioned, especially the video game one, World's End Club. In recent years, Houston has started getting a little bit of a shot getting into the video game scene, where now it's not just Houston being the place for anime. Now there's consideration where the Houston talent can now dive into the world of video games. And
Mhm.
I know you like mentioned Shannon Reed. He's been a director on a few titles in recent years, so it's amazing to see now Houston get like the ball in their courts and get their work done in video games. So awesome that you got to experience that, and especially if it's a title that's under the Nintendo Switch. Definitely a good market for the Houston scene to get their name out there, that any Nintendo Switch users out there, when they see this title and they want to know more about it, they can now learn that, hey, it's been done in Houston, and there's a great crop of talent over there that can do some amazing voices and give out their best A game performances. So
Mhm.
yeah, great thing. And then again, you mentioned UK Holder, which we'll be talking about soon. Another amazing title from Sentai, and one that does have a is a sequel to the Nagima series. So amazing title to be part of, just because of the already established fan base and the history going back in the mid 2000s. Still, we're getting some sort of continuation of that title in one way or the other, and bringing new characters and having the storyline continue on, and hoping we get more of UK Holder, just so we know get some more storyline going. So
Yeah.
yeah, happy to know that you've had to get to work on these two titles.
Mhm.
So to continue on this interview, another question I'd like to ask you, and this one's another favorite of mine. What was it like working on Bodacious Space Pirates?
Well, first of all, the title is awesome. So when I got the show originally, I was like, "What? This is so bizarre." Um, but I got to work with Chris Ayres on that one, and he was the very first one to hire me ever. In was like 2010, I think I had my first job, and he was just at the time, I don't think I appreciated how big this part was or how important it was. Because I was still just riding on the high of like, oh my gosh, I get to do this like for a job. And I get to work with Chris, and he was always pumping me up. And you know, when you first start a job, especially a dream job, you have that worry that people are going to find out that you're not actually good enough to be there. There's a name for that. Um, but it's escaping my brain. Um, but he never made me feel like I wasn't supposed to be there. So I loved working with Chris on this show. And I got to play a girl, which like, I mean, I don't, if you look at the body of my work, most of my stuff is boys, prepubescent boys, little boys, and babies. And then I've got some weird characters in there too. But this was a girl. So I got to use like a little bit higher register of my voice and sort of like, you know, relaxed my voice a little bit. And I didn't have to be so hard or I didn't have to put so much weight behind my voice like I do a lot of times when I'm trying to play like a serious like boy. So I really enjoyed working on this one, as in particular because I was working with Chris on it.
A very amazing show, had a very good run, especially with the series itself and a movie with it. And as mentioned, Chris Ayres, at the time of recording, he has passed away a year ago, so rest in peace to him. Amazing director, amazing mind for the anime industry and voiceover. He was one of a kind, and he has been on this Ohio Guys interviews a couple of times in the past, so he will be forever missed. Just just going back into both the space pirates, just the concept in itself, just a pirate a genre, but taking place in space, and kind of
Hmm.
turning that genre on its head. Instead of the original character archetype of pirates, whether it be the Captain Hooks with the claws in the hands, the eye patch, the stereotypical R saying, just that those rotten teeth, and then that voice. Now we get like girls that get to become pirates, and they do it in their own cute way and
Hmm.
express a certain charm that you would not think a pirate genre would ever pull off. And the show did that. You grew attached to not just the space captain, played by Lucy Christian, but all the characters were unique in their own ways. Just the crew members, the recruiting cast members, everyone had like a part in this entire show. And it's just amazing just seeing how these girls would take on these pirate missions. So again, another thing to consider, that you just not expect that until you watch the show and you just see how well they're able to carry on the task for pirate.
Hmm.
I am, I'm hoping that we might get some more in the future now that we're getting some new seasons and some continuations. I think
Hmm.
what the Space Pirates does deserve to get some more sequels out there, because it's just that much of a charming show, and all the characters are beloved in one way or the other. So I really hope that in the future we might get something more of that. So, but we'll see what Japan says about that.
Hmm.
Another show that I want to talk about, and this one really pulls on certain heartstrings. So now we're going from cute pirate girls to more adolescent dramatic youth. We're talking about Chivalry, Chivalry of a Failed Knight. What was it like working on that show?
Well, again, I got to work with Chris on that one. Um, and I really just use my own voice for that. A lot of times you're kind of on a need to know basis when you're recording the show. So you come into the studio and they kind of tell you, okay, this is what's happening in the scene. And then you go. And then you might do it a few times, and the director will let you know if that worked or if it didn't. And you just really have to rely on the director um, for your choice, your acting choices. So you can make choices, several choices, but they're going to choose the one that makes the most sense for what's going on in the show. And a lot of times too, the characters I play um, might be on screen a lot, but don't talk very much. So I don't actually get to be in the studio as much as they get to be on screen. So from what I remember from that show, I know that I got to use my own voice, that I got to work with Chris, and that it was just a very lovely, peaceful experience with the script.
This show, me speaking as a fan, I enjoy this because of the dramatic storyline it was telling. And of course, you had characters, either ones that were going to support the main character or they were going to be against the main character. So watching the show, you get to see that chemistry build up throughout the show, especially towards the end. And I'm avoiding spoiler territory here, but when watching the kind of the end goal of this series, you are feeling the struggle of the main character. You're also feeling the anguish from the supporting characters getting to the end game because there's so much at stake in this show. There's so much repercussions that as a fan you're almost on the edge of your seat, clenching on your handles because you understand the weight of the story that almost failure is not an option and that cannot come to pass because we know how much the consequences are if the main character doesn't achieve their goal, and especially just seeing the supporting characters hoping for the best, and you just feel all of that. Like this show is just amazing with its visual art, with its unique characters, the way they interact with each other, especially their skill sets with the swords, and the great fighters, all of them, with their unique styles. And I just can't help but just be at awe like how much this show really struck to its audience members, just seeing so much build up, so much tension, and especially from all these characters that come from their own different backgrounds and the way they try to, interplay with each other, how they can connect with each other with their, with their past. So it's definitely amazing, amazing show. I'm glad since I picked it up. And I hope for anyone that's watching this interview will consider checking it out because there's just so much inner workings from the show from start to end. And one I really highly recommend for anyone either new to anime or wants to have seen anime but haven't seen the show yet. Definitely go out and check it out. All right. So here's another amazing show they get to work on, and still to this day, still gets so much great fan reception. And this show is Girlz Und Panzer. What's like working on that show?
Well, there's a lot of girls on that show. So I think pretty much every female that works for the studio got to be in that show, which is really exciting because it's something that like when I do see the other voice actors, we can all like laugh and talk about that one. Um, that one, I I played a girl that her volleyball team got canceled. They couldn't afford to pay for the volleyball team, so they joined the tank club, which is just so crazy. Like we can afford tanks, but we can't afford a volleyball and a net. But my character's hope and her team's hope is that like we're gonna raise money doing the tank club so that we can have our own volleyball team, which is just so crazy. It's just such a silly plot. But it was so much fun. Um, And again, I played a girl. Um, and funny story about that show is that when I went in to record that, it was the day before I gave birth to my first child. So I was so uncomfortable and so big, but it will be so memorable, that moment in the studio of like standing and sitting and standing and sitting and just trying to find my comfort level because I had no idea that I would be going into labor the next day. I just knew that I I just I knew that I was uncomfortable. That's all. Um, but yeah, my character is Tycho. Um, and it's such a silly part, but she takes it so seriously, which I think is so so important when you're playing a comedic character to take yourself seriously, and that's where you find the humor. Um, so yeah.
This show is amazing for many reasons. Like you said, it's mostly an all-girl cast. All the characters are female, and just seeing them ride these tanks is cute in itself. Just that visual where you see these middle school, high school girls just
Mhm.
driving tanks around. They're just trying to blow each other up, but there's no death in this one. Is
Yeah.
it's a sport game. They treat it as sport, almost like I guess almost like a freeze tag type of way, or like a
Yeah, like
dodgeball type of
capture the
way.
flag or something. It's like capture the flag with tanks, and nobody's worried about getting hurt, which is just so crazy because they're tanks. Like people are gonna get hurt. Like in real life, that would be so so crazy. No one would go for that.
And I think that's just that idea where on paper it sounds good, but like in actual reality, there would be, like you said, some
Hmm.
consequences just because there's a risk of injury, someone getting hurt.
Right.
So you
But you
kind
can
of
get away with that in anime. You can do those silly things and not worry about the consequences. So,
and yeah, it's just one of those shows where you almost suspend disbelief,
oh, for
and
sure.
and you definitely just root for the girls because it's all fun and games. It's all for good natured spirits. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's also why it makes it special, why we keep getting like new movies coming out every once in a while, just because people want more. They want to see more girls driving tanks around. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, it's all cute in its own way.
Mm-hmm.
So I suspect, I have a sneak suspicion we're still gonna get more movies. And I really hope we get more because all these characters, they're so unique. Each girl, there's something different about them. Either they know how to drive tanks, they know how to aim, they know how to read the terrain. There's always something about them, even though they can be quirky at times. They have their own little specialty on what makes them able to compete in these tank war games.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then also they keep introducing new characters that have their own little skill sets. So, always a demand for more Girlz Und Panzer whenever the time arises.
Yeah.
And I think, in my humble opinion, Girlz Und Panzer is now a staple to Sentai's library of all the shows they've inquired in their existence. I think now Girlz Und Panzer is now one of the big names that when you hear Sentai's name, you now
Mm-hmm.
think about Girlz Und Panzer. So they've
Yeah.
done a great job handling that title for all these years. So yeah, so now we'll see what else they do with Girlz Und Panzer and with Sentai, what other titles they will take into the library and build upon that
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to establishing a great fan base and a very family friendly type of show like this one here. So
Yeah.
yeah. So thanks again to Sentai for making this all happen. And again, hopefully we will get more in the coming months or coming years, I should say. All right. And then speaking of high profile titles, here's another one that has had a big splash in the anime world in the last, I want to say 7, 8 years going now. And
Mm-hmm.
this title is Made in Abyss. What was
Mm-hmm.
like working on that show?
So I play like a little boy. He's maybe 2 or 3 years old. So this is one of those situations where my character's on screen more than I actually get to speak. And some of the lines are just like, ooh, because he's sick at some point. Um, so they're like really short. I think I only spent an hour in the studio on this show. So I wish that I could have spent more time with the show. I have watched the whole thing through. It is probably the show that even people who aren't like diehard anime fans still recognize. So like when I do theater in the area, and in my bio it says that I've done these shows, that one is always one that they recognize. And my character is such a sweet little kid, you know. It's so it's such a simple, easy character to find because when there's so little like that, there's not a whole lot of depth yet. So you can sort of just be that fluff, that cute, you know. And I worked with Kyle Jones on this one, and he's such a joker. He always makes the experience so fun. He's always pulling tricks on you and gags and making jokes in the booth. And so anytime I get a chance to do anything with Kyle is really fun.
This show has really just it has covered so many bases just in terms of the genre that it's in, the type of show it aims to be, and the characters it puts in place. It it's a stronger impact when it's about really young kids, and they're not even middle schoolers or high schoolers. These are more like little kids in
Yeah.
an orphanage.
Hmm.
And as an audience member, we recognize the ever higher risk for danger, the high risk of death, because it covers these kids in orphanage where
Hmm.
they could get sick at any moment and face, child death at a drop of a hat. So there's always that to consider, and as well as diving into the abyss with no adult supervision.
Hmm.
That's almost like a recipe for disaster when it comes to that caliber of danger, that caliber of instant death. So I massively enjoy the show because it came out as a big surprise when Sentai announced it that they've acquired the show. People were really on their feet. People were really buzzing about it. That, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, it's time, and there's going to be an English dub as well. So I remember it just how big it was, just knowing that it was coming to the States. It
Hmm.
was it was going to be on DVD set, and even the limited edition box set was sold out within like a 2 to 3 month span. Because usually people wait till like Christmas time, so
Yeah.
not even 6 months did that box set that's like it was sold out. So
Hmm.
I missed out on that one myself, but I was able to just get the standard Blu-ray DVD, and so yeah, great music, great animation, the atmosphere itself that this show illustrated is so
Yeah.
unique and stuff.
It's got kind of like there's a serious undertone because they could die and these kids are orphans and all of that's really sad, but it doesn't bog you down when you watch it. It doesn't feel heavy when you're watching it. Another thing I really like about it is that in general, sci-fi isn't my choice genre, but even though this had like a fantasy sci-fi sort of feel to it, that also didn't weigh it down either or make it wasn't like your typical sci-fi. It was less about that and more about the characters and their relationships to each other and the mission that they had to accomplish. So yeah, it's a great show.
Yeah, as a fan, the perseverance from these characters, these kids, was
Mhm.
very admiring. Just they recognize the danger, they recognize the cost behind it, but they're still able to keep their heads up and still pioneer through the abyss. And I think that's
Mhm.
the reason why it's not too bogged down, is in a way we know that they're still looking at the brighter light at the end of the tunnel. So I
Mhm.
think that's what made the show even more special, just seeing that they're willing to keep going, and when we the audience are rooting for them to achieve their goal, getting to the end of the abyss.
Mhm.
So yeah, so we'll see if this is continuing because it's had some movies, it's had another season. So we'll see
Yeah,
what
maybe
else.
my character will get to be in a little bit more. He'll stop being sick and can maybe join the adventure.
Or maybe do one where they're older now, maybe get into
Yeah.
their preteens or in the high school age, where
Hmm.
okay, that mission's been accomplished. Now what happens? Maybe 10 years later,
Yeah.
now they're all grown up, they're more seasoned, understanding the abyss and achieving more goals. I think
Hmm.
that'd be a very nice touch if they were to go that direction.
Hmm.
So yeah, great show. That was done, and yeah, can't see any more positive things about it. It's that much of a good show. All right, and now coming back to another show you mentioned earlier, and that's UK Holder. Why don't you tell us more about just working on a show, just being part of a title of that?
So, up to this point, I want to say this is, and even if it's not true, it felt like the biggest part that I had gotten. And I was so super psyched. I got to spend like hours and hours in the studio. So I remember this show well, just because I think I spent, 2 weeks on it, like 2 good weeks where I went in every single day. And I really enjoyed, like I said before, I really enjoyed the character and how they didn't have a gender and got to play around with that and still got to develop relationships with people based on how they felt about them and not with any biases, pre-biases about them, because um my character sort of started at square one. They got to choose who they wanted to be, and I thought that was really exciting. Um and getting that one day in the studio where I switched my voice from boy to girl, which for me is just changing my voice register. I don't know that I really do like voices. I really just use my own voice, and then I'm a trained singer, so I use things like breath control and sort of the quality of my voice. So if I need a smoother tone, I might drink some milk before I record. If I always sing to warm up before I do my voice stuff, but if I'm playing a boy, I choose different songs to sing. I actually sing men's songs. I usually choose Disney music because there's usually pretty good range in Disney music. And musical theater music, they start low, they go high, they go back and forth. Whereas pop music, and as much as I love it, it wiggles around like maybe 5 notes. So I have to be challenged. And um, so when I'm playing a boy, I focus more on my lower register. I drink coffee before I go in because the caffeine sort of dries my throat up a little bit. So I know that when I'm going in for that boy, I was like, I'm gonna have some coffee. I'm gonna sing my Disney Prince songs, and then but the day I knew I was gonna play a girl, I did not drink my coffee. I had some milk. I sang my Disney princess songs before I showed up, and it was really fun to like let that character be a part of my life for that long. And and of course it's always fun to work with Shannon on all of it. He's so kind, um but honest in a very, if he doesn't like something, he'll let you know, but in a very like kind way, like that was nice, let's try something different, and that's always great.
This title came out at a good time, especially from again going back to the original Negima when it kind of finished up in the late 2000s. Everyone thought, okay, that was kind of like the end. That was kind of okay. We're probably not going to get any more Negima, so all this done. And then to come to find out that UK Holder was a continuation of that, it really sparked friends' joy. Where oh, we're getting more Negima again after all these years. And so just knowing that there was still like an interest for Enigma. There was still an interest to somehow carry on that storyline and do something different with it, add a new element uh, of conflict, a new type of storyline, and it's amazing that they would go this far for it. And in the last like 5 years or so, the anime industry has now started to again make new seasons or new continuations. We've seen for some old classic titles from the 2000s where now, after all these years, after fans have pleaded and begged for, hey, please, we want more of this show, we want more of that show, and now they've kind of started listening to that more. Okay, let's pick up with that stuff, and bring back these shows and new seasons, new continuations, and so we're glad that's happened, and hopefully we'll get more UK holders soon, because I know there's so much more meat on the bone that fans want to get more of. So I'm really hoping that sooner or later we'll get more of that, because I think it's a great way to kind of build up that continuation. So again, we just gotta wait and see what happens next, because Naruto does get that continuation, or some are kind of capped off where they're at. So now it's time for the funny question I like to ask everyone. If you could be any character you have played in real life, who will you be? And you can mix and match.
I don't know. That's hard because most of my characters are children. So I think uh not one specifically, but a lot of the children, they roll with the punches, and I think that that's awesome, and that's something that I would strive for in real life. And they can find the joy and all the possibility in life, and they still have um that outlook on life. Like in Made in Abyss, we were talking about my character in that. He's sick, but he's still so joyful, which is just, it's lovely to see that, because an adult that's had a lot more experience with life, um, they they might not be able to see a future that's happy again. And I don't know that it ever really gets sad for him. Um, so I don't know that any one character that I've played that I would necessarily want to be, but I think that if you can keep sort of the joy and the spark that children have of all the kids that I've played, I guess I would go for that.
Yeah, just the mindset, not necessarily like just characters themselves, but just some trait that they have that you could hope to incorporate to yourself, in your everyday life. So just that positivity, that good mindset can get you through the day at any moment.
Yeah.
All right. Now, is there anything coming out that you can talk about, or anything you want to plug in at this time?
Well, the only thing that I will talk about is Eminence in Shadow has been out for it. We've had one season, and season 2 just aired a couple weeks ago. That is a show that I am both writing, and so I do the ADR script writing for that, and I'm one of the characters in it. My character is a small part, but she's one of the Shadow Girls, and uh she's a badass, and I love that. And like, how often do I get to play like a badass chick, and it's a great show. It's a show that I'm really proud of, and one that um it's very I've spent a lot of time with this show and with the characters. And I will admit, when I first started writing it, I did not like it. I didn't like the character. He's a sociopath. I was like, I'm not on board with this guy. I don't like him. But as the show went on, I was like, okay, yeah, right. I kind of get it. I get what's going on. They're sort of poking fun at it. And So that show I would recommend for anybody to go see. My character's name is Chi. She's a tall, blonde um, woman. She's always on screen with her gal pal Omega. So and yeah, it's a great show. It's really funny, but incredibly dark at the same time.
And to kind of continue on that show of Eminence of the Shadow, I watched the first season. I have binged it so thoroughly. I love it. And I can see why people at first may not appreciate it, but someone like me who's watched a lot of isekai shows, who watch a lot of characters like that, but in a
Hmm.
way, like you said, poke fun of it, kind of poking fun the genre itself, and not take itself too seriously like other past isekais. I think it
Yeah.
was a great way to kind of stand out from the other shows in that same genre. I love all these shadow girls. They're all have their own personalities, their own quirkiness to them, but they're great fighters. They know how to handle themselves since they've been trained by the main character, Shadow.
Hmm.
And going to season two, so much dark nature of that show, just how humans can really go into certain avenues, certain territories that in a way kind of makes you feel shameful of being human, because
Hmm.
this does happen in real life too,
Yeah.
when it comes to crime, when the goes into kind of in a way the more sexual tones and these different areas where it's like it does make your gut kind of wrench on those certain aspects. But
Hmm.
again, I appreciate a show like this kind of diving deep into that, not being afraid of going into those areas where, hey, this is kind of real stuff and this can happen anywhere in any time period in any
Hmm.
world. So, because again, this is how humans can really let their dark undertones take hold of them. And I love Eminence of Shadow, rather, again, as a play on the shadow of humans that they let loose, or just a shadow of self trying to engulf that shadowy part of the human nature. So I
Hmm.
can't stand like good things about it. And I really hope they have a limited edition box set when it releases. I really hope so.
Yeah. And it's almost like the gangster movies where you're rooting for the bad guy, but nobody's really a good guy. I mean, they're not really a good side. I mean, even the people, the heroes that we're rooting for are the best that we've got in the show, and they're awful. But yeah, I mean, and he's a cult leader. You're rooting for a cult leader and his cult followers, and it's it's so bizarre to root for someone like that, but you do. I mean, I think the way that the character's written and the way that that actor has played Shadow just really makes him endearing, and all the women just they they really are, they want to be good, they want to do the right thing, and that's what they're doing what they believe is the right thing, even if getting the right thing means maybe not making such nice choices. So yeah, it's a great show.
Yeah. And for anyone watching this interview during the time of this recording, if you don't have a high dive subscription, get one now because it's
Yeah.
exclusive on High Dive. So get your membership and binge the show because you get
Hmm.
season one, season two is still going weekly by weekly of each
Hmm.
show, each
And it's
episode.
right in time with Japan, so you know, Japan, the Japanese is coming out and we're coming out right at the same time, so it's very exciting.
Yes. So again, folks, do it. Free plug to High Dive and for Sentai for making this all happen. Love them, love the category, love the library set. Go for people, for our followers. You will enjoy the show. I promise you that.
And High Dive is totally worth it. It's only like $5 a month. So it's worth every penny. Even if you watch one show a month, it's worth it. I mean, it's a great streaming service. It really is.
I can attest to that. Been with him since day one. So again, thank you, High Dive, for all the amazing titles, and I really hope to see many more titles to come in the future. So again, nothing but good things for High Dive and Sentai for producing all these great titles.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I would ask a question for you. Is there any Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or any social media sites that the fans can go and follow you at?
Yes, my Instagram is Black Kalin. So it's BLACKKALIN. Super simple. And that's really where I post all of my industry stuff. So if I am going to be doing any more ACONs, which hopefully I'm going to start putting those more into my calendar. And whenever I finish a show, I will let people know when it's coming out. And if anything cool in the anime world happens in my world, then that's where I'll post it.
Fantastic. All right, Kaden. Well, thank you for your time for this interview. I appreciate your time, and thank you again for everything. I can't thank you enough for that.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, I was happy to have you here. So thank you very much. And I want to thank the fans for tuning in for this episode of the Ohio Guys. Thank you everyone for watching, and I hope to see you all soon in the next video. Thank you all, and goodbye for now.
Bye.